Welcome to Whispers and Choco. This is how we do, and if you don't know, now you do. I'm Shawnee Whispers.
And I'm Mike Choco.
Together we are Mike and Sean in purebred loco. Oh no, we fucked that up. Okay.
Yeah.
And we might go loco.
And we might go loco.
And just in case you wonder what went wrong. Or just in case you wonder what took long. We'll say that we're sorry, and this show is going.
This show is going
Straight to hell.
straight to.
I like that one, yes.
Yes, it is. Straight to hell. Welcome to hell. My name is Mike Durso. I am one half of this dynamic duo of the Mike and Sean Show. Again, Sean is not here, but he's feeling better, and he's at a business function party for his real estate business. And I'm lucky enough to be here. Although we had a guest and we had to cancel it, it's okay. She'll be back. Don't worry about it. I know you're crying over it. But right now it's just me. It's Mike on the mic with Mike, the engineer. It's Thursday, December 16th. We're 9 days away from Christmas. Can we get some applause for that? Yeah. Yeah, 9 days away from Christmas. 9 days away from Christmas. Did you shop everything for everybody that you're supposed to shop for?
Yeah.
No.
Me and my dog.
Yeah.
Me and my dog.
I got 2 gifts
What you got?
for 2 people.
Uh-huh.
And that's it. And I have a whole world more of stuff to get for people. And so I can't believe that this is another year through, another pandemic year. How about that? That's really exciting, you know. We hate to do it for 2 straight years. Just when we thought it was going to be 1, we got Pandemic 2, the sequel to the shittiest movie ever created. So if you didn't know what it was like to be an actor in a shitty movie, go back last year, and that's your role. That was it. On this date, this is great. On this date, in 1773, the Boston Tea Party started.
Teabagging people.
Teabagging, that was it. That's what they did. They teabagged. They didn't want to tax on teabagging. They were like, hey, we're throwing your tea and, the bag into the water. And that's how we started protesting and becoming Americans. The protest was real. Yeah, so on this date, the Boston Tea Party, they threw tea into the water and said, you're not going to tax our tea. And that was that. How do you feel about that?
Wow.
I don't feel anything. I just something to write down on that. Another thing that I think is really important when it comes to sports and life right now, on this date last year in 2020, Major League Baseball finally recognized the Negro Leagues as a major league team and major league stats to combine within the major league. That deserves applause. Like, it seems quiet, even though it came out and it was small because of everything that was going on last year, shortened season and COVID. They finally recognized all those ball players that went out there and were segregated and had to, play on their own fields. And like the Yankees had to be called the Black Yankees to play ball.
Now let me ask you: do they have like a Hall of Fame for them?
Yeah,
Like
so they made a wing specifically. So 2 of the things were like the when they had the women's baseball leagues, the professional baseball league, when World War II was going on, and so fast forward all these years, they made a wing for them, and so also for the Negro League ball players, they made a wing for them also, and combined their achievements, their life achievements, into the rest of Major League Baseball, which I think is awesome, but it's a long time coming, I mean, again, they say some of the stats were inflated because they didn't have, you're not sure about the accurate bookkeeping of it, because some of it's hearsay. Like somebody said, like, oh, I saw Josh Gibson hit 800 home runs. How come nobody else said that? Like one dude, and then the other guy was like, yeah, it was 800. At 800 feet, too. And they were like, okay, yeah. So it's, how the urban legend, the tale starts, the more you tell it, the farther the home run is, the bigger the legend, and it just keeps growing from there. So those are amazing things. Also, in a debate of baseball, it was like talking about, because right now we have football going on, but baseball's locked out. We have football going on. It's pretty important. But recently we just had a vote to put a Veterans League, to put veterans in the Hall of Fame that didn't get a chance their first 20 times around. They waited 30 years. And there's a few guys. Gil Hodges will go in as a Met, I hope. But he was a Brooklyn Dodger, and that'd be an amazing thing. Because there's a lot of players that, like Pete Rose, the all-time hits leader. He gambled on his team. He gambled against his team. He made money off baseball should he not be in the Hall of Fame. Now, Ray Lewis.
I don't understand the whole Pete Rose situation.
So
I never quite was
okay,
able to grasp.
so there's a whole list of rules that you can and cannot do. Well, forget about the can do. The cannot do on the list of when you're playing. Football has certain rules. Basketball has gambling rules. Baseball has gambling rules. You can't bet, and you can't bet on. Last thing you do is you can't bet on the team, because they feel like you can manipulate the game if you can
shave points.
Right. And so Pete Rose was always saying that he never bet on his team, and if he was going to bet on his team, he would always bet to win. Now, here's what I say about that, and I wish he would have come out right away and said, I did, and not wait till his 15th year of eligibility and try to beg and plead his way in there. Now, if he goes out there and he's this great baseball mind and he's watching this guy go out there, and we'll give a guy like Tom Browning, wasn't a hard-throwing pitcher, but let's say his stuff is soft and it's weak and he doesn't look like he's throwing hard today. So you call your bookie and you bet against the Reds, and you make a big, and you win big off of it because you're betting against them. Maybe it's 4 points or maybe it's 5 points and 5 runs. And so that was banned because you can't do that. You can't bet on the game. They made that rule. He got caught. He had checks to his bookie and he got caught and all that shit, and he got suspended. Okay? But then we fast forward and we have guys who actually physically took extra stuff to help them be better ball players. Steroids and greenies and all those things that we kind of, the players, the owners look the other way and the commissioner looked the other way, but they soured on Pete Rose. They won't let a guy who hit 750 home runs and a guy who won 360 games in the Hall of Fame and the guy who has the most hits out of everybody all time. Because everybody's perfect. Mm-hmm. All the people that own the teams and the people that are in charge, they're perfect. So those are like the little things that I pet peeve about the Hall of Fame and having people like writers. Because all the other sports, I was going to say Ray Lewis was, stabbed a guy to death, threw away the bloody outfit, committed murder in the Hall of Fame. That should be enough for you to be like, all right, maybe that's a bad soul and we don't put him in there. But it was just bringing that up and because of the achievements and the veteran players that got a chance to be in there. And even in their passing that their family gets the recognition now that their relative is a Hall of Famer when it comes to baseball. Yeah. And the people that get to vote on it are just like media. Some of them never played or maybe played in high school. And so they became writers, and once they were certified, they were able to get these votes to, their high and mighty view of who soured on the game and who's this and who can get in there. So I don't know, but I was just bringing that up because I'm still locked in baseball, even though baseball's locked out. We were just debating about players like for the Mets. Next year Robinson Cano, who was caught cheating and suspended for a year, hasn't played in a year and a half. And he's got $25 million a year on the books for the Mets to pay. And he's 38. And now he's got to go on the field and they have to pay him. So if you're going to pay him, you're going to have to play him. Yeah. And he's got to go out there. And is it after not playing for 2 years, is he able to play the field? Well, he was amplified up by cheating. Not cheating. Well, it's like, it's cheating when you take steroids if they're illegal and you get suspended. But it doesn't really make you a better ball player. It doesn't make you a better football player. It doesn't make you a better baseball player. You just recover faster. And that's the cheating way. So,
you into Netflix series, Mike?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I watch a lot. I do. I watch Netflix. I bounce between Netflix and Amazon and Hulu, whatever I can. I try to look for stuff. So every once in a while, I jump into like really, really like C-level movies, like bad acting, like from top to bottom, they're awful. And just to see, like, you're like, oh, hey, I can do that. Mm-hmm. Can I do it better? I don't know, but yeah, I do. What are you watching?
I was watching. I actually watched yesterday a documentary, something about the Coliseum. Did you see that? It was about when the guy threw the cup at the Pistons.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. It's the Malice in the Palace.
There you go.
Malice in the Palace. Yes. So it's an anniversary for the Malice in the Palace. And that's crazy because... So Ben Wallace, who is a beast of a ball player, super strong, in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and debatable. I mean, because of the small window where he was an A-plus ball player, but he got fouled hard, and he and Ron Artest is another guy who's a strong defensive guy. Strong. They fouled each other. Pushing came to shoving. Blah blah blah. Technicals. It flared up. They grabbed each other. There was almost punches being thrown. So another guy on that Pistons team was on the
Pacers.
The Pacers was Steven Jackson, who he's volatile. Like, he even says it. And so they're Ron Artest is laying there, and somebody throws. Now, the way it goes, whoever threw that beer and it hits him, right? When they ran up there, the kid that you see like freaking out and he gets hit, it's not the guy who threw it.
It was the one right next to him.
It was right next to him, and he just watched it. And so that kid got beat up by those. Now, yeah, obviously there was some restitution for it and all that, but that kid got beat up because of that piece of garbage, right?
Would you get hit? Would you take a punch?
If I threw it, I deserve to square up. And Ron Artest is from the projects, man. He's common, but he was a street guy. He had to fight, probably not every day, but close to it. He was a strong dude. He grew up in the hood. Like Steven Jackson grew up in the hood. Like those guys, like even though you making money or like you're doing all these right things, it never leaves you. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard because you're defensive. You think somebody's testing you.
I seen when he throws the cup.
Yeah.
They run up, they hit the wrong person, the right guy who threw original, where the cup originated out of, moves back. He's like, I know it's not going to be me. Sorry, kid. He knew it. And then you could see that older gentleman that ran over and tried to grab Artest, and they punched him too. What's crazy is because they didn't know who it was, right? What's crazy in that moment is now they got to fight everybody because they don't know. Yeah.
And then at the end, those two dummy kids that were little short dudes that try to throw a punch at Jermaine O'Neal, and he's another one, and he's just like boop boop.
I was surprised that there was no security at that game.
Well, they were there. They were just
high up. Yeah, no. At the time, there was no security around the
court. Not around the court.
And they only had 3 officers assigned to the freaking stadium.
Because something like that is so rare. It's not in your schedule. Now, I'll give you an example. In Philadelphia, the old Eagles Stadium, they played at the Vet. It was the first official major sports team to have its own judge in the stadium, because that's how shitty and rowdy those fans were, that they would get convicted on the spot. They would get their ticket, and whatever it was, if it was a fight, whatever they were caught doing, they would get their penalties immediately. Now, I don't know that anyone else ever had a judge in there other than them, but
Philly is really Philly.
Look,
I used to live up the block.
It's a reputation that they have of the worst sports fans.
I used to live up the block from the stadium.
Okay.
And it was crazy. It was some of the greatest times that I had. The shit was crazy all the way around. Not even the games. I'm talking about like
just the neighborhood.
With the neighborhood and the stories that we've been through. It's crazy.
Yeah,
the parking in Philly is something that wows people.
Yeah.
Over here, double parking will get you towed. Over there, double parking is normal on the street. And mess around, they don't care about double parking. They'll triple park.
Yeah.
They will triple
just
park.
Block the whole thing again.
Screw it. It's like you come out and it's like you got to wait for this person and this person. You're like,
right.
Man, they don't care,
Yeah, we drove out a few times, and they're like, only like, I think one time we had to park in the street, and we're like, we're never going to do this again. He's going to pay that extra to just...
Small little narrow
Yeah. Like, because you're shifting back and forth, moving up, back and forth, like, like, I can't do this. Give me a car that just slides into the left,
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, but, that's crazy, because, like, there are there were crazy moments in sports, like, that fan that stabbed Monica Seles in the back. Like, obviously you don't know what crazy people are going through. But the fact that some fans, like I go to a game, the last thing I'm thinking about is jumping in there. You know, I don't look at a football game and go, I'm going to fight the dude that has a helmet on and pads and equipment and weighs 360 pounds and who's 6'8". Why? What makes you want to throw something at that guy? Or even the basketball players?
I'm trying to...
He's like a deep breath.
No, because there was another series I was watching and I forgot. I think it's called Rotten Sports. And it's new on Netflix. It's also a good one. It's about basketball and the stuff that went down. I'm trying to avoid cursing this, if you know.
Okay.
The stuff that went down in Phoenix, was it? With the college teams and the betting in Vegas. Do you remember that?
Vaguely, but that was a lot. There's a lot of stories like that, like the point shaving and like
yep.
You know, and you can look into it and you'll find
it's called Bad Sport. That's the name of it.
Okay.
Bad Sport, and it's that when you have time, look at that one. Watch that one. That one is another good one. Bad Sport is a really, really, really good show. They talk about that whole situation that happened. Like these guys were making up to $10 million on bets, shaving points. You know,
but these players aren't making anything, right?
And back in the 90s, the main guy, the bookie was making $1 million a game. Crazy, and he was paying the players $20,000 a game. So hell yeah, they went from making nothing to $20,000 a game.
You're just gonna keep doing it because in college, especially you're on scholarship, you're limited in how much money you can receive from your family.
Yep.
Just your family. It has to go for clothes. It has to go for certain things, and so they have a stipend for food, but still at the same time, like you're making hundreds of millions of dollars.
That's how it looks.
Okay.
And the one that is called Hoop Schemes.
So you're making hundreds of millions of dollars off these players, and you're giving them jack to live their lives. So now, like they've not imposed, but now they put in allowing them to get paid like a certain amount of money. So it kind of like, because listen, if you go to college and you want this, some guys go back and get that education, right? But if you go in there and you just play ball and you don't care about the education because all you care about is basketball, and the fact that within 5 years you could make anywhere from $75 to $100 million contract and half of that guaranteed, why do you want to stay in college? You know, in baseball, you could get drafted at 18, 19 at a high school, and you could decide right at that moment if you want to go pro or if you have a scholarship to college, you can stay. Immediately, the top 25 are millionaires. If they never make it to the pro, immediately they're millionaires. Yeah. Okay, and if they're that good and they stay, like a Bryce Harper, by 19, by 21, he's making $3.5 million a year. By 21, bare minimum is $1 million because he got that, like he got a super signing bonus. So what's the incentive if you're a college ball player to go to college for 4 years, not get any money, and miss out on another guy going 1 year or 2 years, going to the pros and making, $5 million on a 3-year contract, or getting money on the side? There's a college. It's one of the documentaries, Texas Christian, and they paid football studs. They were just the top of the heap. Like these were, if not the A, they were like A minus, but they paid them all to be there. And then that was against the rules, but they got caught for it, but they paid them and they were just good and they were just dominating. And then, it unravels and there's somebody who makes some money, or their mother gets a $75,000 car and drives it around, and they live in the projects, or they live in, they're on welfare, and the kid gets a scholarship, and all of a sudden, like they're like rednecks living in a trailer, all of a sudden driving a brand new Ram truck from because they paid the family money so that the kid would pick their school over another school. So those are those scandals. Now, NYU many years ago used to be a Division I college basketball, and they were like they used to get the top of New York basketball.
Wow.
But for like 3 years in a row, and they were like one of the top teams on the East Coast.
Who leads New York right now in college basketball?
I don't watch it as much as I used to. I know St. John's is up there, is doing his thing. You know, there's a lot of schools out here, but they're like up and down. Like, but St. John's right now is maintained. You always had Manhattan College, you had Fordham, you know. I'm missing a few, but whatever. Who's gonna yell at me? Oh no, he's not here to yell at me. He's not here to yell at me.
Shawty.
Yeah.
We miss you.
Yeah, we miss you. So, you know, so they were so good, but when you found out that like they were losing these games that the talent wasn't at their level, then you find out they were point shaving, that these players were getting paid X amount. So when you watch these games, when you hear that, when you talk about a basketball player point shaving and missing on purpose, you watch how good they are for like 3 quarters and just lighting it up. And then all of a sudden they go into deeper spots and then the shot is off and they look like they can't make a decision. And you go, I could see it right there. This guy's, you know, we even had an NBA ref that was caught for fixing the game because he would call extra fouls, not call fouls on certain people, you know, and he did his time and then he ratted on the people that, you know, he was working for, because that's what you do. You save you do the crime, save your ass, do less time. I mean, that's
greed will get you every time.
Every single time. Oh, and speaking of that, on Netflix, there's a great documentary called Greed. It's so good. It's 4 episodes each, and it's all about these people in finance who are absolutely awful, disgusting human beings, and how they were able to get away with it. You know, successful at it, just being completely being greedy and taking from people. And then, you know, and then it's just everything from like real estate, a minister, there's a debt collector and his shady little scheme. It's a long list of it. It is so worth it. It's one of I was watching it and I'm getting mad and yelling at it like, that's a fucking trap. That's a trap. Excuse me. Like, that's a trap, you know? And like, why would you do that? And you're like thinking like, it could have been you. Like, you could have thought that was, this is a great deal.
Yeah, like
so,
common sense. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, like, nope, I don't have it right now. I'm just going to get corrupted and fall into this trap. But, you know, sports is the biggest, has always been the biggest moneymaker and the biggest financial risk for fixing. You know, if you're on the bench or you're like the 8th guy, 9th guy, and you're not making a lot of money, and they're like 19, right? The White Sox, 1918, they're called the Black Sox because they threw the World Series. They were so good that the best of the best went from like batting 390 to batting 320. Now for 320, we're like, yo, that's really good, but not if you're naturally batting 390. If you strike out 10 guys a game, but you're only striking out 5, and you're dominant, and all of a sudden you're not dominant when it counts.
It's obvious.
It's obvious. So they got caught. There's a whole story about that. Movies, books. You know.
When you have time, look at that. Watch that documentary that I told you on Netflix.
Oh, definitely.
The only reason why they get caught is because they're running their mouth.
Right, because like what they say is like, you know, there was there's a document, not a documentary. It's a movie called Blue Chips, right? It's about this one school that does it the right way, but they're not getting the A-list ball players. And it turns out some of the bigger schools are paying the, you know, like we were talking about. And so Shaquille O'Neal plays in it. I forgot who other. Just a couple of other real ball players playing actors. As in this. Yeah. And Nick Nolte is the coach, and he doesn't want to do it. It's not his thing, and they do it. And then when they get caught, they have pictures of saying like, oh, you guys lived in this house, you were poor, your mother worked 2 jobs, but she can afford a $75,000, let's say an Escalade. It wasn't an Escalade because this is like the late 80s, early 90s, in the 90s. So let's say it's an Escalade, 150,000 or whatever, I'm just making up the number, is that they had pictures of it, right? So there's always somebody that's hired to investigate when those people get brought in for the scholarship. How does their family get that money? Right? LeBron James came out of high school and he was a stud, okay? But he was driving around, you know, and I don't know what his mom did, but there was never anything about that they had a lot of money or they didn't have a lot of money. But it was like the only choice left for him was to go to the pros, to make that kind of money. Kobe Bryant didn't look as good as he could be, but he went high school, they went in there and they drafted.
Boom, yeah.
Get right away. You know, some guys can make it. They can go to college and they can, even if they play 1 year, and the one and done is kind of what a lot of people say ruined college basketball, or even some of the pros, because these guys are now developing 5 years in front of you when they would have developed in college before they got to the pros.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when there's that much money in the business of sports. You don't want to play the amateur. You don't want to be in college. You know, you don't. Like all these natural talents that went to school for like 2-3 years or 4 years, I'm gifted enough. They went and got an education, but half of them could have just gone to the pros and played a little bit longer and made more money.
True.
That's it. You know, there's a lot of sport documentaries out there about, like, you know, the 30 for 30 is a special one. It's always a good story, but like, it's, you know, there's one about Ric Flair, right? And the craziness about him and his life and how chaotic it was, and his sons and his daughter getting into wrestling. And it was one of the best documentaries I'd ever seen. Not just being a Ric Flair fan and you're like, woo, you know, but it was so good because there's a moment when he's telling a story about his son, and you know, his son OD'd,
Mm-hmm.
and he was wrestling in Japan, his second son, and he was getting better at wrestling, and he OD'd. He just, you know, it was just easier to, like, I forget it was, like, let's say it was do heroin. It was just easier to do heroin than to drink because you just didn't want to feel anything sometimes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like, you know, there's a sadness. No matter how successful you are in what you do or how successful you think you're doing, sometimes it's just a sadness in someone, you know? And, go ahead.
You watched the game with Curry?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, as a Knicks fan, sure, I want to watch a game where the guy breaks the record and we lose again. I love those games. I love my Knicks. Yeah. I love them only when they win. No, I love them when they lose.
I can't front. I love Curry. Curry or LeBron, I'm taking Curry every day.
I'm not taking LeBron. I think he's an extraordinary talent.
I just think
I'm not taking him.
Much.
Yeah, I'm not taking him my top 10. Like, I just couldn't do that.
I think he's having a hard time right now. He's having a hard time.
You know why?
Swallowing that harder.
Right.
You know, on the refs not calling fouls and giving it to him as he wanted.
You know that whole thing where the when he punched the kid in the face in Detroit, and then the kid went after him, and he was like, then his players were defending LeBron, and he was saying, oh, he went to shake his hand, he went to tell him it was no big deal. You can't fault the kid's reaction, because if you watch that replay, LeBron is a strong guy.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have to do that. That guy wasn't as strong as him. He threw that punch into his face, or at least his body, and it didn't mean to get his face, but he was ready. He was throwing that to, like, move him out of the way. And then it was like, oh, my bad. No, look, LeBron is an extraordinary talent, but it's a different game. Mm-hmm. You can't compare, like, Steph Curry, I think, can shoot, and he shoots from everywhere. It's just amazing that his shoot gene is from close, back, far, turning to the left, turning to the right. He shoots the ball, turns around, and then points to the crowd and friggin' goes in. You know, that's the only things you do in the park. It happens once. You know, he's ridiculous. And he should be on everybody's list, you know, if not the one or the two or the third point guard that you know, shooting guard, but he's a point guard that you pull out in history. But I wouldn't put LeBron in my top 10. I think there's like, but also I couldn't compare him to Michael Jordan as much as it is. I couldn't compare him to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, because when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was in college, they banned dunking. Nobody could stop the bigger guys, and if it was the brothers, and they couldn't stop him. Yeah. Okay, so that he had to develop the sky hook, that hook shot, because there was nothing else to do because they banned him from dunking. So he mastered that sky hook shot, that hook shot, so that when he came to the pros, he had something else that you couldn't stop. You couldn't stop him from getting and dunking it, and you couldn't stop his sky hook. And his whole career, he was dominating college, he was dominating high school, he was dominating the pros, points, championships, 2 different teams, the Lakers. He did a lot for the game. And so the comparison is Michael Jordan and LeBron, but there's Kareem. You know, you know, it just, the games are different. So it's hard to compare players that played, whatever sport they were, Barry Bonds or Babe Ruth. You know, it's hard to put that together because Babe Ruth wasn't in shape, is not supposed to be the guy who hits 700 home runs, steals 15 bases a year, bats 320 every year. He's not supposed to be that guy. Look at him. He went out drinking every night and ate hot dogs every day. Who does? Nobody can do that and still go out there and perform at that level. But then, sorry, go ahead.
You have any fights you looking forward to? You into boxing?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I am. I have a new favorite who's been fighting for a while, and if you look up a boxer, his name is Montana Love. Okay. Montana Love was an undercard of one of the fights I was watching, and I want to look up his record, but Montana Love, I was like, dude, I'm just saying, I was like watching him like get hit and then watching the guy miss him, and I was just like, he's my new favorite. He wasn't too cocky. He was just smooth in what he did. I'd like to see who Usyk has to fight. What does his record come up as?
Korea, 17-0.
Yeah, like he's fresh. This is not like, how old is he? I think 27? 20.
Yeah.
27 years old, yeah. So he's like
26.
26. So, you know, for the next 4 years, you know, by the time he's 30, even 31, 5 years, I feel like he's just going to dominate, you know. But I want to see, I like watching Canelo. I like to see what he performs and what he does. He keeps moving up weight classes and he keeps moving around.
I know who you're talking about. I seen this fight. Yes.
The recent one, right?
Yes. Yep.
Are you watching the Zone?
It was a good fight, yes.
It was a very good fight. Mm-hmm. It was a very, very good fight.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, I agree. I like, let me see, Triple G, one of my favorite. Canelo, you know. AB's kind of quiet right now. They beat him into a corner.
Yeah. You know, some guys are just, I know what like you try to do. You try to build up this persona. You trash talking, talk smack, like.
Have you seen the Mayweather boxing gyms that they're opening up?
Yeah.
I went to one in
how was it?
They seem pretty. They're all right. I went to go check it out. It's pretty. It's nice.
I don't. Like people say, like if you don't like Mayweather, you're a hater, so to speak, right? And I don't hate it. I don't say that I like it. Like I think he's an extraordinary talent, you know, and I don't care what you do, but you to go undefeated is an amazing thing to do. You pick your fights, so what? Maybe you pick the person that knocks you out. Mike Tyson did not prepare for Buster Douglas. The man's name alone, you're like, I'm not worried about Buster Douglas. Buster Douglas laid him out. Put him to a point where he got his mouthpiece. He didn't even know he was putting it in reverse. Like he was lost. He didn't train for it. He wasn't prepared. He was out of shape, even though he was sculpted.
But Tyson, I think Tyson, when he came back out, he was different.
Yeah, I think a lot of it. I think not just the 2 years away from it, but I think that like when what he says. Look, he has. I read his book. I watched the documentary about like pretty much the book where you don't hear the questions. He just gives the answers as if to each question, and he tells you how lost he was. Like he tell you where he was going. Like when the fire went in and how fast it went out. When the fire came back and how fast it went out. Like. Even up to Lennox Lewis, there's like in the first round, there's a part when he has Lennox up against the ropes and he throws this hook and he hits Lewis in the face, and Lennox Lewis is like, you could see his eyes open up going, wow, like this guy hits hard. But that was it. They had him on something and he was calm the rest of it, and then Lennox Lewis just punched him away, and but Mayweather like is a businessman. He knew what to do, what to say, how to do it, go out to fight, talk to Jung. Ricky Hatton, they were like, you fight Ricky Hatton. He fought Ricky Hatton, he destroyed Ricky Hatton. They said fight Arturo Gatti. He fought Arturo. Gatti is a warrior. Arturo Gatti was a warrior. But he dismantled him, like this.
What do you think about the Paul brothers?
I think they're garbage. I think they and I'm sorry to say that. I was like, because you're not real fighters. I mean, look, they're doing something that we all wish we could do, right? Bulk up, be crazy, and go pick a fight. December 18th, he's fighting Cormier again, right? Oh, no, not Cormier. He's fighting Woolley.
Woolley.
Yeah. You know, and like, dude, do you see what he did? He made his own stupid belt. He's not even a champion, but he shows up to the presser with his own homemade belt. Dude, it looked like it was made with crayons and spaghetti, man. Like, it's like he bought a couple of an old wrestling federation from like the most colorful like Mexican wrestling, and he took it with him. This dude is walking around with his own makeshift belt.
Mike, I want to see him get knocked out.
I think he has a clause, right?
I want to see them get quiet.
He has a $500,000 clause. And now look, Woolley, Tyrone Woodley was, he hit him up. Woodley hit him up, But here's what's good about it, and this is say like I think it was something that Tyson said. You want to do what that guy did, right? He's strong. They crazy reputation, right? They get into fighting. They fight whatever. Like the other brother when he fought Mayweather, and Mayweather gave him that hook, and you could see he was going down, but Mayweather picked him up. Clearly that was the wrong guy for him to fight. But I'm sure, just like a lot of guys out there, there's a lot of mid-level fights for those guys. There's not a mid-level, not even mid-level. I would say less than mid-level. But so what? Like if they go out and they go 25-0, right? Let's say any one of them, they go 25-0.
He thinks he could fight Canelo. What do you think?
I think there's heavyweights that can't fight Canelo.
I'm like,
Do you see how he trains? You see how Canelo trains? He does those one all-in-one punches.
Bro,
like
I seen the Canelo fight with it's the guy that he broke his face, he fractured his skull.
Was it
you gonna fight this man? Are you crazy? Hit me one time and I'm down.
Yeah, like he fractured his skull and his orbital socket. So what I'm saying is when you watch Canelo train, if you look at the videos Canelo train, he moves around, he's fast, he puts on the weight and he does this, but he does this training where he does this like all energy, one shot, all energy, one shot, and it's not just right hand, it's left hand. He does all energy shots from above, all energy from below, all in the hook. Yep. So every time he throws those punches, he does all energy into them. And so when he hits that bag, he's hitting a bag that's made to withstand his power. Mm-hmm. A dude's face is not made to withstand his power. It's just not made for it.
He don't punch to it. He punches
through it.
Through it.
He's punching. He's punching through to your family on the other side, and they go, "Oh."
I remember when they asked him right after that fight, they were like, "What happened?" He's like, "I broke his face." I'm like, "Oh,
yeah." Like when he hits him and that uppercut, that punch when he goes down and he gets hit, he goes like this and then he breaks it, like he fractures it.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's crazy.
But do you think Triple G fell off?
I think he had a bad night. A lot of boxers have a bad night.
I love Triple G, and I think when he switched trainers, he did himself more harm than good. Like his punch, if you look at all his earlier fights, his punch was that sandbag punch from top. That he hits you to push you, make sure your head is hitting that ground.
They were talking about that weight division, right, and how everybody was calling each other out and who they're not calling out, right? Because you got you got Lomachenko, mm-hmm. right? And, who was the other one you have? Ryan Garcia, who everybody's calling out is just ducking everybody, Here's a kid that's supposed to be all that talent, the pretty boy, and they interviewed him one day and they were asking him about who in his division he would like to fight. He couldn't even name anybody in his division. That dude's mindset isn't in there. He gets in the ring with one of these top fighters. He's Devontae Davis, Tank. He's Gervonta. Yeah, like if he fights him, he's compact and he's power. He's a little dude. He's compact. He's power. He would destroy him. He would hurt him. He would break him. He would break him so bad that he never comes back to fight. He would go into modeling or acting. Mm-hmm. Like he's just not that good. He's got some speed, but he's not going to beat a guy like that right now who's established himself. And they clowned him because it was Mayweather and Davis in the presser. They clowned him. You
think Connor's coming back?
I think so. I think he's got nothing else to do. Like he may have made a lot of money, but that's what he does.
He wants to fight. What's this guy's name? Poirier.
Well, they're not going to fight
want-
again. Poirier just lost,
I-
right? But Oliveira is a beast. He like that thing with he jumped on the back and he does the pull and look, it's a different. The game has changed against him. So he either if he's like right now, apparently McGregor's like all buff, like he went up to 190 or something like that, massive, just muscle. Okay, I thought after he fought Mayweather, if he strictly trained for boxing, that he could stay there and fight maybe mid-level guys for the next 10 years, make a ton of money and go on. But he went back to MMA. He went to UFC. He's still a big mouth and a big dog. But what happened was it caught up to him. Because all that junk that he was talking, all that smack, that garbage that he was talking to egg people on, even Dustin Poirier was like, it's not real. I'm not impressed by that. We don't have a rivalry. He was trying to make it something. The only way that McGregor should come back is if he gets to fight Khabib. That's it. If Khabib comes out for one and they fight each other. That's it. Nothing else. Yeah. Because he's not, unless you have big guys and he moves up in weight to fight bigger guys, unless that's the thing.
Look at that shit. He's chiseled up.
190, dude. Buff to 190. Buff to 190.
I don't know. My favorite female of all time was Ronda. She.
Yeah, but you know what? Karma hit her.
At the end of the day, yeah, they all.
Karma hit her because she came out there. There was the Demisha Tate, right? And there was that one, and she didn't want to do it. And so they booed, and she went out there, and she won. But then they said to Holly Holm. Holly Holmes is, she was a top boxer before she was UFC. She put her gloves out. She didn't want to touch her shit, and she got lit up. And then her time passed her. Like McGregor. I believe his time has passed him.
Yeah,
There's something else to do. I wouldn't say go into like WWE, but I think a few years back he should have went to boxing, because who's gonna fight him now? Like if McGregor went into wrestling, his character would fit. The angry Irishman.
He would.
Right.
I said that the other day. I was like, kind of should. I could see him tippy-toeing into WWE.
Who the fuck are you?
WWE right now is like in shambles. Like I'm tired of seeing the same.
See, I don't watch it anymore. I don't watch wrestling. On Instagram, I follow AEW. Mm-hmm. And WrestleBotch, which is kind of like I show you all the dumb things, and like Supercell Sunday, where you see guys oversell the shot and all that. But AEW, I follow it on social media. I don't catch all the things that they put up there, but it's just curious because I always thought it was fun when there was two parts to this. Not, WCW, WWE, and then we had ECW.
Yeah.
And yet, it's guys talking about that wrestling thing, and I was like, but what I enjoyed...
Big shout out to my boy Ray Calici. I know he does show me a lot of support.
Okay.
Does show a lot of Mixed Vibes Radio, all the shows, everybody support. He's a wrestler. He's with the EPCW.
Oh yeah.
He's a good guy.
So
we need more like him. He's a really good guy.
My buddy Steve, who was here a few weeks ago, the comedian, he has a friend of his that I making friends with. His name is Louis. They call him Cuzzo. He's a wrestler, and so he's on the independent circuit, and he had to do some fill-in stuff at AEW, and so. Yeah, I was like, I just saw a clip recently of him doing some chops and throwing a guy in a corner and something like that. And it's weird when it's somebody doing it. It's like
you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, I was years ago. I had this. I was dating this girl, and her boss ran out in Jersey on a NASCAR track, a mini NASCAR track, and I had never been to one of those. I never had any interest, and we go out there, and I know what his car is, and it's loud, so some people have headphones and. You're watching him, and it is as redneck as you can think of to be. But watching someone that is different because he has a support to it now. And so watching him, and I went to the third race he did, and the third race he won, and they allow the family and friends to run onto the track. And I was like, and I waited at the gate. Everybody ran in there. They were like, come on. And I ran out there and I was leaning on the car and the car was warm, and you're taking a picture and you look up and there's all these people in the stands, they're looking at you. I was like, oh, this shit is pretty cool. This is pretty cool.
I took my son to for his birthday, we got invited to see Ray Kalichi wrestle,
Okay.
and we were sitting ringside. It was awesome.
Mm.
It was awesome. Like I mean, wrestling's wrestling, but there's some shit that they're taking real hits at the end of the day.
Yeah,
There's
look,
some shit that
every
they're taking.
there's always that stuff like, is it fake? Like maybe the storyline is, maybe the hatred is. Some guys actually don't like each other.
Pain is real pain though. Like when you see them hit each other with the steel chairs, you can't fake it. I mean,
Well,
you're getting slapped on the back with a chair.
If you do remember the time when there was a video, Stone Cold Steve Austin, right, where he had busted his head open, and Bret Hart put him in the sharpshooter, and he's put him in the move, and he passed out because of all the blood he lost. Now, when he jumped off the side of the ring to put the move on, and Bret Hart was supposed to move, he was supposed to hit the top of the railing and bounce off, but he missed the top, and on the bottom of the railing, the barricade that blocks you, the metal one, it has this like almost like a card welded in there, and it's sharp, and that's where he busted his head open, and he started bleeding. And then when he got in the ring and they were wrestling, he had him in the sharpshooter. He was out. He was passed out, bled himself out, just passed out there. I was like, that's real. Now, obviously, there's also times when they had to cut themselves to make it look even more. But it's a crazy thing that was your profession, and you're like, well, professional wrestler, and you go, college, Olympics. You're like, nah. WWE.
Backyard wrestling.
Yeah. The one with the barbed wire and the explosions? Yeah, that
You ever
was
watch
me.
those?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy people. It's just the light bulb thing where they do with every single one of them, where they smack each other with the light
With
bulb.
the fluorescent bulbs.
Yeah.
And how
Just
about the spike bat? Like,
Yeah.
There's one that he gets slammed on a nail, and I'm like, yo, the nail is impaled in his head.
Yeah, because, well,
And he's sitting there like, he's like, does it look good? Does it look good?
did we get a good shot,
Like, you're leaking.
How do you want to measure stupidity, right? It's not for everybody, but you got to think about all these little federations and arenas and colleges and high schools that those young wrestlers to become professionals wrestled in.
Yeah.
Every one of those wrestlers that are at the top that you like wrestled in backyards and high school gyms.
Started somewhere, yeah.
$25. The big name got $50. The lowest guy got like $5. Imagine you put your life on out on it. You got $5. What are you gonna do with it? Nothing, because you gotta eat. Because now you're gonna go to McDonald's, and that's all you have.
Smoke a bag of weed. Smoke the pain away.
Smoke the pain away. Well, now to smoke the weed is like you get very sensitive, so you feel the pain a little bit more. Yeah, but like all sports has that level of risk, right? Like football, it's a very short career on average. It's maybe a little bit longer now, but it's usually between like 5 and 7 years. And if you play 10 years, you probably had like 10 concussions. You're gonna have some serious trouble. Baseball longevity now, the better shape you're in, you could go on till you're like 40 on average. Look how many. Another thing in sports. Look how many 40-year-olds are still playing sports.
Look at Brady.
Brady's 43 years old.
Brady's gonna be 60 years old.
Yeah. I could see him 60 all of a sudden become the kicker for the for the Rams. Now he's playing for the Rams. What did they say was like? I think it was great when Tom Brady, like, he went with Tampa, and they were like, "Is he the GOAT?" And they won. It was like, "Nah, he's not the GOAT." And the guy was debating it, like, "No, he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. The greatest of all time, right?" And he was like, "No one make him the GOAT when he comes to the Jets, and the Jets win, because that's a dysfunctional franchise, and that's my franchise." And I was like, "That I wouldn't call him the GOAT now, but if he comes to the Jets and we win, yes." I would call him the GOAT.
I said it like when that year that. Remember when we were talking with the last guest, the comedian?
Yes.
When I went to that Jets game, that it was the Jets versus Patriots on Thanksgiving, and Brady slaughtered them.
Yeah.
He slayed them like lambs.
He did. He does that to everybody.
It was, and then it was Mark Sanchez, man. Mark Sanchez that night, he must have had like six interceptions. It was horrible.
It's I tell you, Mark Sanchez, who drafted high, right, by the Jets, in college, when he was coming out of college, he only had 1 full year as a starter, and I think he was a junior. And Pete Carroll was like, "I don't think he's ready. I just don't think he's ready. I just don't think he's ready," right? And he was like, oh, that's sour. You just want to, a championship with this guy. You're just sour. You just want to win another championship because he's your main guy. And then Sanchez had some good years, but he was very inconsistent. Maybe Carroll was right. He wasn't ready. Does that 1 year make him more seasoned? But the things that led those Jets for those 2 years were defense and a unity. As players got old and hurt and they weren't on the field, by year 3, it was less. Year 4, it was butt fumble, where he ran into his own offensive lineman and then fumbled the ball. And then that was it. The Jets could no longer not be the laughing stocks.
Yeah.
Because
I
that's it.
always said Mark Sanchez was the best quarterback that every other team had.
Right, yeah. They couldn't wait. Like, you have any interceptions? No,
Get
not
ready.
yet. Right, like your paycheck's going to go up because you're going to get those interception incentive.
Yep.
And that's what happened. Like it's hard. It's like I'm a Met fan, a Jet fan, a Ranger fan, a Knick fan, and I don't have any championships, man. I got, the Mets won in 86. I was, 12, 13 years old.
I was going to say the Mets.
Right, but they went to the World Series twice after that and they lost. I was there in 2000 when we lost to the Yankees. Of all the teams for me to witness, losing to the Yankees.
I got to work just about every World Series that the Yankees had, from, I want to say the late 90s all the way up.
Oh.
Because I remember I worked at this ambulance company called MetroCare. And we provided the medical
for the Met fans that fainted out and
services. Yeah. And
yeah.
It was that was crazy. That was dope.
I got these tickets for almost nothing. They were upper deck, and the guy that sold them to me got these tickets lower level, and he sold them for face value. They were like 130. Mm-hmm. So I called up my buddy Tony Romero, and it was like 100. Hi, Tony. Throw that in there for him. And we get up there, and on the way in to the game at the gate, and I looked at him. I said, we could find a scalper, sell these for like $1,000 each. Take that money. I mean, most of it. Go to the bar, watch Game 5, win or lose, and make money off of it, right? And he was like, "What do you want to do? Do you want to do?" And I was like, I get to it, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna be able to see this game again. Now, 2:15, I went, but at that moment, I didn't know if I was ever gonna come back to a World Series game, And if they came back and won, and I'm watching it from the bar, and I had tickets, I'd feel sad. But even if they lost, which they did, and I got to see it, and it was a great game to the very end, I would be sad if I didn't, So we did, and they lost, and I was sad. And but it was it was just the Mets and the Yankees playing, and it was all you dreamed about, having two professional teams in your city for them to play each other in the World Series. Win or lose, the Yankees would dominate. They had all the right players at all the right times, and for that late run.
I remember freaking the Giants went out to Atlanta when I was living in Atlanta, and I went with a whole bunch of my coworkers to see the Falcon, Giants at Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I wore my Giants jersey. Bad move. They lost. Well, long story short, I had to take the heat on the way out the stadium, right?
Of course, because you wore it there. You chose to wear that other jersey.
But I almost got a whole crew jumped because we were all wearing Giants jerseys. All of us from New York. I turned the guy that was heckling us. I told him, I says, "Let me ask you something. How many rings your team has?"
Yeah, I mean that's what they say. It's douchey about Yankee fans, right? Yankee fans, like, you might have been. Let's say you've been a part of 5 of them, right? Yankee fans are like, "There's 27 rings," and people are like, "I don't want to hear it. You don't know all 27. You can't even name 27 players. So shut up, stop it." But that's what happens. Like when somebody throws championships, another fight's gonna break out.
Yeah. They would.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about that. Like when they go, "How many championships your team won?" I go, "None." I mean, well, not any that I was
But it's like Atlanta's jinxed. Georgia, period. Like the whole Atlanta sports.
Well, look at the baseball. Baseball, they won in '95 and last year.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Last year they broke the curse.
Yeah,
because
broke
they were jinxed. Like Falcons, the Braves.
Well, the
Hawks.
yeah, man. Well, the Hawks, I could go back to like from the 80s up, like when the Hawks had a really good team. They had key players: Doc Rivers, Dominique Wilkins, Kevin Willis, Concac. They had I know Spud Webb was a novelty, but he was a good ball player. Yeah. Antoine Carr. I'm missing a few players, but they had some like solid ball players there. The problem was in that system that no matter how many games they won, they always came up against the Celtics. And when the Knicks were getting better, they didn't have enough to fight the Knicks. And so there's a long list of teams that they came up with. Now, modern day, I mean, they got like one or two ball players, but they've never had a good basketball team that you were like, oh my, this is the top. Yeah, this is the top team. Their football team, every couple of years, pretty good. The Deion Sanders year, all right. But they had Andre Rison, they had Deion Sanders. They also had they had Brett Favre as the backup over there, and they got rid of him. Then they had Michael Vick, and it was different kind of ball player. It was never both sides of it. The closer they get to the Super Bowl, they go up against Brady and Belichick, and they melt in the whole second half.
Damn.
That's it. They tried hockey out there.
Talking about Belichick, what do you think about the new kid, young kid?
Mac Jones?
Big Mac.
Let's talk about Mac Jones.
Is he going to fill up those shoes?
Yeah, Mac Jones is going to be fine. I have a quarterback, highly rated, who is erratic, and people say, calm down. Eventually, his ball is going to find his targets. Mac Jones shows up, and he's like out of shape. He's got no sculpt, and all his balls find their targets. So
do you think he's Brady in the making?
I don't know about Brady because
all his college. I watched a couple of his college.
Brady is exceptional because of what we've seen him accomplish, right? Because we've already seen all this accomplishment. It's only because of that. Like this is the if, and there's always in sports. It's
do you think Belichick made Brady?
I think Brady is an exceptional talent, but he showed that even without Belichick, he can win. But in Tampa, there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of speed on that defense. There's a lot of offensive weapons. But if you don't have a guy who can lead you and get you there and convince you that this is what the game plan is, how do you win?
It's useless, yeah.
Right? So Mac Jones goes out there and they had the confidence that this guy is going to get the job done. Okay? I think Belichick, somebody said that if you have coach of the year, you should just give it to Belichick every year until he retires. If he retires. Just every year, just give it to him. Here's the thing about the system with the Patriots.
His son is also coaching with him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but very few sons of coaches that they're lifetime coaches ever go on to do amazing things. Yeah. But here's what I say about Belichick and without the praise of the system. Here's Belichick, Coach A, and he builds a foundation. He builds the coaches for each position that he needs to hire, and he gives them the system and how it works, and they teach it. Now, those guys go off somewhere else, and they have all these big jobs, and they're unsuccessful by themselves. Or some of them have been somewhat successful, right? Mm-hmm. And then he has new coaches to fill those slots, and they preach the system, and they win. And then the new coaches come in, and they preach the system, and they win. And so all his career, all he did was lose coaches, put new coaches in, preach the system, and they win. So yeah, I think it's both of them. But do the Patriots win, if Brady stays? Maybe not. Who knows? We don't know. It's the what if. He goes to a system in Tampa that basically had a defense, had a pretty good offense. They just needed somebody to lead the charge to get him there. Mm-hmm. And he did more than that. Yeah. I just wish that he would have missed the boat when he threw the trophy to the other one, and it would have gone under. And right now we'd be talking about the guy who went down there in the submarine and brought it up. That's the guy I want to talk to. I wish he would have, because his daughter was like, "Don't do it, Dad," and he did. And man, that's just to show that everything that he throws hits his target.
He's like, yeah, sniping.
Yeah, they were like, it's that's gonna sink, and they were like, they weren't good. I could see somebody dive in with it like to prevent it, not realizing that it's going to sink him down to the bottom because that's how heavy it is. But that's, I mean.
But when he threw that water's not that deep, and at the end of the day, it's Florida, so it's really crystal clear. They're gonna get it right back. They would have.
No, they would. Yeah, I believe like they would have like a 2-man sub, and they would have went down to get it. But I would see somebody dive in the water to try to hold on to it, where it would like pull them down to the bottom like an anchor.
Jump off the boat with him.
Yeah, they're like, well, let it go. We'll get it tomorrow. Don't worry about it. Like I could see that. That's like the guy with the metal detector on the beach. He's like, beep, 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 beep. Hey, what's this? He digs it out, and it's the trophy, and he's like, oh my god. Yeah. So, like I think the sports conversation always gets to the GOAT is the new phrase all the time now. Who's the greatest at this? Who's the greatest at that? And then like a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. Right? He was a wide receiver for the Giants. He was putting up all these numbers, and I work with guys that were like, his numbers are better than Jerry Rice at this point, and I was like, well, that doesn't mean anything. He's gonna be great because his first 3 years matched up to over what first 3 years of Jerry Rice. That man did it for his whole career. Mm-hmm. Now forget about the first 3 years. And so it's stupid. I think it's stupid in that conversation, like who's better than who, because if you have the right tools around you, but Belichick just found a way to keep bringing all the right players in, not just the right players and the right coaches. Mm-hmm. Okay. Aaron Hernandez, here's the thing. Aaron Hernandez is a murdering piece of garbage, right? He took his own life, whatever, everything that went with it. But he was so gifted, so talented and gifted as a football player that the things that he did on the field offensively were amazing. And the only reason they don't win more in that era is because he was a piece of garbage. If Aaron Hernandez was not a piece of garbage, with Hernandez and Gronkowski out there, the fact that Hernandez played wide receiver, tight end, and was a star running back in the playoffs and ran for over 145 yards, they're unstoppable. That offensive line has always been a juggernaut. But good that, he was, in the sport world, that he was a piece of garbage and he no longer exists. But if he did, you would just be like, they're great. They're so great. And I think people try to like hold back from giving the Patriots all the credit they deserve. And I think it's the coach. I think it's the coaching and the system. Belichick had a game plan, and he changed his game plan. 1 year he's got great running backs. 1 year he's got great tight ends. One he's got great receivers. Then he's got okay receivers and tight ends, and he still puts together an amazing package of players and defense. And so he just keeps changing. He keeps evolving, and they find the right players to do that system. The funny thing is his coaches never go on to have great success. They probably go off to do good things. But Seifert and Jimmy Johnson were guys in football that their system created coaches that went off to do really good things, and it was like the Bill Parcells system. He had all these coaches that are, that when he started were players or just learning how to coach, and now they're all getting better at it.
You think we've seen the end of Manning, or you think he's going to come back as a coach?
I don't think he's coming back a coach. I think there's too much more fun and success in what they do, like commentary and making fun of each other. That show with it's him and his brother, so good, making fun of each other, like just that because it's sibling rivalry, but just to make fun of each other.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. They're like Eli clearly has no emotion, and Peyton Manning's got the sarcasm, and they're funny. And I don't see them coaching. I don't see either one of them coaching. There would be no reason for it. I can understand if they miss it and they're like, I want to get back on the field. There'd be no reason for it. They're going to be doing jokes on each other for the next 20 years, and we're going to be laughing at them when they're 70, and they're still making jokes.
Real quick, I don't normally do this, but we got the shows cross-promoting each other.
Okay.
Because actually, at the end of the day, it's Mixed Vibes Radio. We all support each other.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be on any network. This Sunday we have Karina, the freestyle artist.
Oh, nice. Who's she coming on with?
Coming on Mind Mink show.
Oh, Mind Minks.
2 p.m.
Very nice.
Sunday. It's gonna be a good show.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. I don't. That's Karina coming on the Mind Ming Sunday. What time?
2 p.m.
Sunday at 2 p.m. If anyone's listening that likes freestyle, the Mind Mings on Mix Vibes Radio, mixvibesradio.com.
We got a lot of stuff lined up. We got a couple of other shows that are in the works.
Okay.
We also have we do film, we do record shows that are not on the live schedule.
Right.
We also do recording offsite at clientele.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's sky's the limit, man.
Well, yeah, like it just keep expanding that roster. It's pretty impressive. Is because this is whatever the details into trying to do this. Excuse me. I'm glad I met you. This is pretty awesome. I like to do it. It's a professional studio. When certain people see the video and like whether they like the stuff or not, they're like, wow, like it looks professional. We may not act like it, but it is very professional setting, equipment, and the whole deal. And that's what makes it. And so you could kind of just ease it, and it's a very easing situation, very natural. So that's pretty cool to keep expanding that roster and have an enormous amount of talent. That is pretty good. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, so we'll just go.
Hold up.
Go back
Wait.
to the basics.
How could I know you want to talk about sports, but let's
that
dip
doesn't
into
have to be
entertainment really quick.
Sure, I'll go into entertainment.
Are you gonna go watch that new Spider-Man movie?
No,
No.
no. I will, but probably not right away. I will. Like, there are some things that like everybody that watches right away, and I wait and like I don't know a couple of months after it, and then I'll watch it. It's just I don't know what. It's weird.
You don't want them to spoil it.
Which I'm never spoiled. Like I'm never spoiled by it. You could tell me who lives, dies, jumps, or who lives. Who becomes a good guy, who's a bad guy.
People were cursing me out, and I just fucking
Yeah.
I lied. I straight up lied. I put it on Facebook. I put down tell me how is it that Iron Man and Spider-Man die now? They were like, you're an asshole.
That is.
And I'm like, I'm just fucking with you. Like,
well, it's like before I think everybody started watching like The Walking Dead when they were watching it live.
I was a huge fan. But Walking Dead, I think, is like Fast and Furious. They outdid their time.
No, I think. Well, I think they could have. There's more stories they could have told instead of making this one group the main survivors of everything. Like, people die, right? And so if, let's say, Daryl's character is the guy who goes on and survives, but he leaves and he goes somewhere else, I'm okay with that. I don't need, and he's by himself. I don't need the same 10 core survivors. It's crazy because one of the things that they said as the character, now, that maybe 10 seasons is too long. They always say, how many people have you killed? And be like, oh, 20 or 30 or 40. And they're like, no, how many people? Right? Like how many, because everybody may be your friend at first, but it's survival of the fittest, when that instinct kicks in. And for the show, I think they could have done more if they jumped away from each group and then went to another group instead of giving us those,
100% focused on one.
Right, like focus on Fear the Walking Dead. Great, but a lot of people died off there.
Yeah.
So and then what happens next with that? And then these, and now we have like there's two more. There's a Walking Dead show. It's like, I forgot the name of it. One's called The Walking Dead Stories or Chronicles. I'm not 100% sure on it, but that's going to come out soon because it's going to be bits and pieces of all. I still like, listen, I love apocalyptic movies and TV shows. Even the worst ones. There's a one called World War Z.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a lot of goofy. There's a lot of goofy in there in it, but it doesn't take itself seriously, so that's what it's fun.
Have you watched any of the Marvel series? I'm talking about like the Disney Plus, the ones that are on Disney Plus. Hawkeye and all that.
Yeah, I did watch. No, I'm starting Hawkeye now. I did watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Okay.
I didn't watch
Black Widow.
Didn't? Did not.
You gotta.
Okay.
You have to watch that before you watch Hawkeye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have some like relationship tension going on in there.
They have a crossover.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll be like, what the fuck? You'll be like, what the hell just happened?
I won't be that surprised. I'm like, whatever I don't know, I just keep going.
Yeah, no.
Do I need to fast forward on this? It's like, yeah, but TV shows, right? Like, all these outlets now are putting out their own stuff. So it's hard to, like, you attach yourself to this, attach yourself to this, attach yourself to this, and you just keep moving. And it's hard, right? Like, because Disney Plus gives us all these Marvel stories, and you want to be on it. So when they make a series, like, what do they have? We have Obi-Wan coming out.
I haven't, when it comes down to Star Wars, Star Wars from from where we grew up is where I left off. I have not, and shame on me because I love Star Wars, but I have not had the want to like sit down and the timeline whatever we seen,
when you watch Return of the Jedi, you're like, okay, I'm fine, I'm done with this. We could just leave it right here.
Yeah, like
you didn't need the prequel.
They did that prequel that went back before in the timeline. Like, man, it's just like.
Well, you want to hear something crazy? So we get those first three, then we get the first three, right? And then we get the last ones, right? And then we get Rogue One, which is telling a story.
To the prequel.
So I was talking to somebody in my building, and it was a couple, and they're like Star Wars, and they were like, listen, there's a series called Clone Wars, it's animated, and then there was another one called Rebels. She goes, they were like, watch Clone Wars. So I watched it. It's like 9 seasons. It's like 25-minute episodes, right? It's animated. The only way to tell the middle story between all those to when he becomes Darth Vader was to have 22 or 25-minute episodes. It's a lot. Like, when I was done, I was like, oh, it's got to be over. It's got to be the last season. It's got to. Then I jumped into Rebels, which was a couple seasons, and explained how the Rebels became the Rebels. And I was like, all right, this has got to be it. And then we get to the end, and we finally get that they want to make another movie. There's another movie potentially that they had to put on hold right now. But there's another movie that's supposed to go on after the last Star Wars movie we just saw, which had, Kylo Ren is Darth Vader's grandson. Okay? He's Han Solo and Princess Leia's daughter. His son, sorry. It can't be the daughter. It's the son. Yeah. Okay? But he's like a good bad guy, bad good guy, right? So that's supposed to end the whole thing. It's just these two. Now they put in the works for the script for another movie. But it hit a snag between the director, who would not be available for it, and plus changes of the storyline. And so they put it on hold. But they're in the next 2 to 3 years, they want to do another one.
That's too many. Like, even the Mandalorian and all that. Like, I'm like,
well, Mandalorian, I gotta say, was really, really good.
I'm like, I'm already like.
But now we have Boba Fett. So now we have the story of Boba Fett. But don't you want to know some kind of story of each character? Like, why did Boba Fett become this?
They'll never run out of stories.
Well, of course not. That's because it stays relevant.
Well, we have Yoda. We have the Yoda, right? On the Baby Yoda. I don't even know. They have so many stories. I'm lost.
It's not Baby Yoda, but it's like Baby Yoda. It's not Yoda. It's other Yodas.
See what I'm saying? Like, soon Ewoks are coming back.
Oh, no. That's in the works.
See?
It's called the Woks. They're coming back. It's a straight up TV show called the Woks.
They ain't got nothing with Jabba the Hutt?
It's called Hutt Bah.
Nah,
every time you say something, I'm just gonna throw a random movie.
These are characters.
It's called the Hutt.
Like, I can imagine. Like, here
like, where you going tonight? To the Hutt.
To the Hutt.
No, they don't have that.
They were saying they're working on Indiana Jones, another one.
Yeah, because what's old needs to be older so that we can do, like. What else is there to do?
Try to reel us in, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to reel us in because we were the fans that watched. You know how I could compare it to you? Paul McCartney, right? Paul McCartney, when he was at the Beatles, he had these songs. Then he goes on his own, he does the Eagles, right? And he has this sound. Right? And so after that, if you listen to every album, one song from every album he did after that, it's the same thing. It's the same upbeat tempo. It's not the same, but they sound so similar. They sound like Beatles song. They sound like Eagles song, right? I'm sorry, Wings. They sound like Wings song, and he's da-da-da-da. And you know what? You know why he does that? You know why he doesn't have to change from it? Because the same people that loved him as a Beatle, loved him in Wings, will love Paul McCartney forever and ever and ever. So as long as he keeps putting them out, the same people are going to... So when you have Indiana Jones, and you're not worried about the younger crowd watching an 80-year-old Indiana Jones, that older crowd that is used to him are going to watch it. You see that? That's why they put those things out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, so should they do a Back to the Future?
Yes, if they allow me to go be in the movie. We gotta go back in time, Marty. We just gotta go back. Get to the, see that there. I could do that. I could really do that.
What classics you think shouldn't be touched?
Oh, the Honeymooners never should have been touched. That was stupid, but they did, and it failed. It was just awful. But other than that, they should not touch I Love Lucy. But this movie that's coming out is not about I Love Lucy. It's about Lucy and Ricky Ricardo, like their relationship. What was his real name? It was Ricky Ricardo. No, not Ricky Ricardo. Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball. So it's about something about their relationship. Yeah. But that's something you should never touch. You shouldn't even make a movie. But this is more like a docu movie.
The Beatles. Back to Paul McCartney. The Beatles. Did you see that they have a series now?
Yeah, I want to watch it.
The
it's
unreleased
all
files. It's unreleased recordings.
They said there's footage where Paul McCartney. You watch this?
I haven't. I was skimming through it and I was
so
like, wow.
It's just a camera following him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on his own, he performs and writes a song, whatever the song is, right? It took him like 1 hour to do this whole thing. That's a musical
They
genius.
had 3 days to do an album.
Right. And it took him 1 hour to do this whole song. Okay? And there they are, and it's just like you said, like the ins and the outs, the fighting, the color, the difference of everything, and like you're gonna fight with people that and that's what eventually they did.
It was
they
like
did
a reality
fight.
show.
Yeah, and so we get to see that, and I can't I can't wait for that. I want to watch it, I really do, because I don't wax for all that old and vintage, but you need it every now and then to understand where it is now. A lot of young people now don't listen to the music or movies or TV show to see what went on 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. They want what's now.
E.T. Should they bring E.T. back?
Yeah. I'm okay with E.T. is a classic.
Sequel to it?
Yeah, no, I don't know about a sequel, but can it do an upgrade?
E.T. comes back and builds the wall.
E.T. is home. Yeah, that'll be like
Elliot.
Elliot, yeah, like I almost gave him an accent. I apologize about that.
Shit.
I almost gave him a immigrant accent. No, but see, that's like I know people that would be like loyal to certain movies, right? Like what to touch, what not to touch, TV shows, what to touch, what not to touch, and it was like there's certain ones, yes, but
we should make a list. That should be one of the episodes.
Yeah, but that would be really cool. Like,
because what should be touched and what shouldn't.
Well, it's like you could touch me here, you could touch me here. No, but it was like because it's opinion wise, right? So my opinion says, like, if I was in acting at the time the script is passed around for The Honeymooners, I would become friends with Cedric the Entertainer and be like, please don't do it. It's gonna suck. It's not going to be good. Not because you're not any good. Not because Mike Epps isn't good. Not because Gabrielle. Like, because nobody's going to want to attach themselves to it. Nobody's going to want to watch it. I know people that wouldn't dare watch it. And I watched it and I was like, oh my God, this is awful. Like, it's awful. Like,
should have left it alone. Yeah.
Should have left it. It's just so, because then when you go back and you watch The Honeymooners, it tells you why you should leave it alone. And, I mean, there's a show like The Fall Guy. Do you remember The Fall Guy? He was a stunt man, but he was a part-time bounty hunter. He had the truck, and he had Heather Thomas, who was really, really attractive. But, when he had the button on his truck, like, that's a show that you could remake, modernize it. Like The Bounty Hunter, he wasn't all about, he didn't have.
They brought back the A-Team. They brought back. What else they brought back?
Well, they made a movie with Starsky and Hutch, which they should have left alone.
Dukes of Hazzard, right?
Dukes of Hazzard, yeah.
18.
Johnny Knoxville.
Shit. What else is
but
they're left?
But see, like those things, like I feel like
Airwolf.
Well,
You remember there used to be a show? I was talking about this the other day with someone. There used to be a show,
yes.
and the guy used to dress in an all black leather outfit and ride a motorcycle, and it was like almost like Airwolf but on a motorcycle. Do you remember that show?
No, I remember a show called Renegade with the guy,
Nah,
the bounty hunter.
No.
Lorenzo Lamas.
Nah, this one was he. It was the actor rode a motorcycle, and it was
Yeah.
almost like an Airwolf style. He would come out and help, and yeah.
And I'm just gonna go with I don't know what you're talking about.
See, I must have been the only one watching that.
You might. That's why I didn't.
Version show. That's
Yeah,
why I
like
crashed.
B. I would only like a C plus.
Magnum.
Yeah, like they did. Look, they've got it going on right now. They did Hawaii 5-0. They did Magnum. I can't think of the kid's name, the actor, but Latino kid. He plays the new Magnum. Oh my God, what was he in? He was in Carlito's Way Part 2. Does that help? He's been in a lot of stuff, but he was young. Anyway, but they have Magnum PI in
Got me going down a list over here. Police Academy. Let me see. What else?
Police Academy. See, but if Police Academy didn't do 7 movies,
It would have been.
you would have, like, if they did 3, like, I'd say you could remake Police Academy. You know, it's unique, it's fun, it's stupid. You bring it back.
How about westerns? Were you a fan of Young Guns?
Yeah. I wouldn't touch Young Guns. I
Young
wouldn't
Guns
touch
is-
that. It's I don't care. Like, you can't. The
That's like
second
with the
one was.
Godfather and all that. That's in its own.
Imagine somebody shows up in Hollywood with a script to remake of The Godfather. They would be assaulted with wet noodles and like they would be strung out naked and tarred and feathered and run over and just, put up on a billboard and give people free shots of like hard avocados to throw it at this guy, whoever it is. Like, it just, which none of that made sense anyway, but doesn't matter. Like, it just
Scarface.
So there was a rumor a few years back where they wanted to do a remake of Scarface, but it was in L.A. and it was going to be a little bit different, where all that what goes on in Miami and out there, and that DiCaprio was going to be one of the characters. And I was like, if he's going to be Scarface, I'm Manolo, 100%, no accent, whatever. I'm the number 2. Because anyone else would be.
They could have picked anybody.
Right, like you could pick anybody Latino, but then they would say like that's too much of a match because Pacino wasn't Latino.
Yeah, I get it, but I mean, damn.
But Pacino wasn't Latino. Okay, only used the over-the-top Latin accent. What do you want, Chico? I want the world, Chico, and everything in it, right? Like like that whole thing that he did. I only got 2 things in this world. Like, that thing was fake. Like, he wasn't a real Cuban. He said a few words here and there in the phrases. Like, he wasn't. So, like, he should have had more Spanish. He should have been a real.
Scarface. The guy that you seen, the TikTok guy that used to pretend to be Scarface. You ever watch that guy?
So in the video, no, but there's a video game, right, where they asked Pacino to do that, and he didn't want to do it because the video game was violent. So there's this main actor who sounds exactly like him, and I think he's the guy.
He's in jail now. He killed his wife.
Okay,
It's probably that guy because he was like, they said he had it down packed.
So they hired him, and he was the voice in the game because at the same time they did it, and there was like a Godfather game that came out, and it's supposed to follow it and build up in the system. But yeah, there are some movies you don't touch, not just because of like how iconic they are. You could turn an iconic movie into something great now. It's a different generation. Like I said, there's a young generation now that won't watch a movie from the 70s, let alone the 60s, right? So you go say, watch a movie in the 60s, you go, nah, it's too long. 70s, maybe. 80s, when you see the cheesiness of the special effects, you're like, I'm out. Okay?
They try to bring Freddy back, Jason. Nah,
yeah,
you're right. It's.
If you're retelling the story differently, like what
Candyman's coming back.
Yeah, that's out. Like what Rob Zombie did when they gave him Halloween, the way he changed it made it good, But some people liked the original stuff and what matches up to the original stuff more. It's creative. Like when he did House of a Thousand Corpses. Oh my God, he's a horror.
Jaws.
Jaws. That I think you can remake. I know a lot of people don't think so, but I think you can. I think you can remake that.
I didn't watch any of the new Godzilla shit. Like,
No.
I was.
No, but
It's black and white classic will forever live.
the one. See, here's the thing. There's a one that's the good thing about music is people cover certain songs, but nobody covers a whole album, right?
Mm-hmm.
So iconic music stays the same. Maybe it gets remastered, but nobody goes, you know what? I'm gonna do this album better. You know, like, you know what? I'm gonna cover "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and they're like, "No, you're not. No. It's not gonna happen." You know, you're not gonna cover songs by Rage Against the Machine. You're not. Then there's this woman, I forget her name. She covered them, like, it's really good because it's a different tempo. But it's only certain songs. It's not the whole album. Here we say, take a classic movie and remake the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't remake half of it. You can't remake a certain part in a movie to match it up with it. You know, so that's what makes, which is strange. Like, you know, the Beatles, right? You're down to 2 Beatles left. They play together once in a while. They do that thing. They wish they were alive so they could all play together. But would you touch one of those songs? You know, if you're an artist, like, and you play like up-tempo
How come they
music.
haven't made a movie of Elvis?
Well, because they made a docu-series of Elvis, and it looks like, you know, how he was like basically jumped into like the black culture and kind of stole it and made a fortune off of it. But I think the Elvis thing is because of Graceland, you know, because there's always something going on there, and you know
Or a Michael Jackson movie. Like, they haven't really officially made a
I
movie.
think the Michael Jackson movie's got the kibosh. Like, I don't see that happening. Not with his family still alive because of the ending, you know. I don't see that happening because, you know, those movies that they get the story from the outside and not all the story from the inside, and so then there's always a conflict. His kids, you know, his daughter's now an actress and she's out there, and so there's a lot. There's like, if it's whatever's true is true, and they're going to prevent it. Nobody's showing up with a script for it. You know, nobody's showing up with a script for that. You want to step away from that stuff. You don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Like I could give an example. Like, there's a certain rapper, and his music is very poetic and storytelling. And I had this idea, and I don't want to say it out loud, but I had this idea of turning his storytelling into a series. You know, a limited series, 6 episodes, 7 episodes. And it's, if I really feel that no one has touched this, I haven't heard anything, and it's been a long time, and I think it would be perfect. I'll explain to you, you know, after that, but, you know, there are some things you can work with. I don't think like the Michael Jackson, like, I think there are Michael Jackson songs that if you put together, you make a storyline.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Dirty Diana and all those other things. I'm a Smooth Criminal.
Make it like a whole series.
Right, it could be a series from the songs. But I think that, but make it about Michael Jackson, that would be tough. You wouldn't even want to touch the score, right? So you have to recreate his music at the time and find people to sing it and then to rewrite it because it's going to sound differently. And then if you're going to ask the family to use his music, you're going to pay them a fortune. You know, you're going to pay them a fortune. And why? You're going to lose money. You're not going to make any money off of it because the music alone would be everything.
Yeah.
Now, I think if you were able to get someone to cover their music and it was all the proceeds went to, you know, the people that covered it, then I would say go for it. You know, I always love cover songs. I think a different version of songs is okay. You know, it's somebody else's style. Mm-hmm. And I think that's okay. And I have a ton of cover songs. You know, there's a country song of Gin and Juice. You know, there's Jay-Z's 99 Problems. But my Gin and Juice, the country one, is kind of funny. He goes, "There's so much drama in the LBC. It's kind of hard being Snoop Dogg." It's just a, you know, white dude singing country. But like, I love cover songs, and I think that's the only way it worked. Because if you tell the biopic and it's Michael Jackson when he's "I'm Bad" up to "Smooth Criminal," you know, you avoid all the stuff after that and the stuff before, which we had in like there was a movie about the Jackson 5. So, you know, it's like in a way, because of all the stuff that's going on, it's like, would you do an R. Kelly movie? The music is good, but the guy is a piece of garbage. Right? Like, I don't even want to hear him. I mean, you can't separate the foulness of the individual to the music, and you like the music, but then after you hear the song, you're like, I believe I can fly. You're like, oh, that's a great song. Then when the song's over, you're like, well, that guy was still a piece of shit, like, I can't believe I like a song, but the song's so good, I've been hearing it for the last 20 years. So there are things that you can't work with.
You can't touch, yeah.
You can't touch it. I mean, they didn't think so. They thought they could touch everything. And so it's hard. It's hard. Like, you want good original stories. And if you heard enough of it in the news, you got enough. Like, you're good. Go on. Keep moving. Yeah, I mean, comedies to read, like, look, they took like the Dukes of Hazzard and they try to make a stupid Starsky and Hutch, try to make a stupid movie. There's some like original music that you just can't touch, and you just leave it. Maybe there are an artist out there that like the rise of like Snoop Dogg, because look at Snoop Dogg, right? He was a rapper, hardcore rapper, and I think he's related to like Dionne Warwick, and later on in life, in his last 20 years of existence, he's become iconic. For baking pot brownies with Martha Stewart and stuff like that. Like, there's more to him when he does the commentary on football, on soccer, when he does when he does the Honey Badgers, and when he does so many different things now. It's like, so let's tell his story where he went from what he was doing in mainstream, or like who's a real, like, you want the Tupac story, but who wants to touch that? They do touch it in the NWA movie, a little bit, but
yeah.
But who wants to touch it? It might be painful for some people. Anyway, this Sunday, I did my first pro comedy show. Okay, and so I got a little inebriated, and I went up there and I had 5 minutes, and for 5 minutes I killed it. I did a great job, 100%. But in my little bit too tipsy and my nervousness, I went about a minute and a half over my time. And they don't like that. They didn't like that. They were very mad at me. They were basically pretty much tempted to drop me from working for them anymore, because it's a #1 written rule. You don't do that. You don't go over your time. You stop, you figure out how to stop, and you get off the table and you keep going. And I kept going, and I'm lucky I haven't been banned.
Did you at least have the crowd still engaged?
Yeah. Up until the very end, I think I kind of like dragged it out a little bit. I got kind of lost because, like I said, I was, but for my right time, my allocated time, I did my job, and I did my job very well. And the only reason I didn't get banned from them is because I did my job well, except running afoul for going over the time. I did my job very well. But I was down on myself. I was like really, really down. It was very unprofessional. It's a very unprofessional thing. I was, kind of like distraught, sad very much over it.
What's the time? What is that? What's the time?
You have 5 minutes. I'm an amateur. I'm an AA amateur, right? Like, not like there's guys that get 7, there's guys that get 10. I'm just starting.
Okay.
I got 5 minutes. I went almost into 7. Okay. And that's a no-no. And I was distraught. I was sad. I was like frustrated and sad over it because there was this high and then I had this low. So today I was talking to this woman who's a doctor. Her and her husband are doctors. And she was talking like, oh, what's going on? You look tired. And I was like, well, I am tired. I said, but I haven't been sleeping. And, this happened on Sunday and blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And so she was talking. We were going back and forth. It was like, well, what do you think? And all of a sudden, it was like, all of a sudden she was giving me a free therapy session. And I was glad that she was a therapist and not like a pediatric doctor. And it was because it would be a good, it was like, this isn't working, doc, but thanks for nothing. And it turns out she's PhD in psychotherapy. And, I was kind of explaining what I was feeling. I was going like the high. I said, bipolar when it takes over, the highs are high and the lows are super low, and sometimes you see the lows are this much, but to you they outweigh the highs, and the highs could be 90% of what you did, you know. And I felt bad, and I was like I don't know what to do, and I just started talking to her. She started talking to me back, and I was like, I felt better, you know, because they invited me to the comedy group, and the booker invited me to a Christmas party on Monday, but they're pissed at me. They're pissed, and I don't want to go because I don't want to get lectured, you know, about what I did, because I'd put enough pressure on myself, and you know, I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to that, and I don't want to hear any more. But
I would go.
Well, that's the thing. If I don't go, probably a chance that they're not going to use me anyway.
Yeah.
So I have to go and take a few hits.
Rub elbows and.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably going to get elbowed.
Just saying, like, you know, you rub elbows, they get to meet you one-on-one, a little more interactive.
Yeah.
They understand that, you know, you know, people make mistakes. It's not a mistake. At the end of the day, it's different if you bombed.
Yeah. Might have been better if I bombed, because then I could just walk away and go, oh, yeah, I could go somewhere else. I don't have to use these guys again, you know?
But it would be different if you bombed, but you kept the crowd engaged. And at the end of the day, you know, it's entertainment.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for.
Well, that's what I say is like, the only reason that I didn't get banned, and they tell you that you'll get banned. You got one shot at this, you know. But what I wasn't a dick. I didn't say anything, but I was like, well, when I was thinking back to myself, and after I was talking to the therapist, who, like, I got a free session, was that nobody's perfect, right? Do you know any perfect people?
Nope.
So what are the chances that some other comic in the lifetime of comics went over their time?
High, very high.
But wasn't good.
Or below their time.
Or below their time. Well, you go below their time and not be good. I'm just saying, I went below my time once before and was good, you know? But imagine going below your time and not being good. Or imagine going over your time and not being good. But imagine going over your time and still being good. How many people do you think in the world of comics that ever happened? It's not minimum. It's not just me. There's no way it's just me.
How often is it that people get up there and they'll choke? Does it happen?
Oh yeah. And some people aren't even that funny. You know, that's a difference too. Like right now, comics are a dime a dozen.
The story could be funny, but your delivery, your delivery is off. Yeah.
The key to a joke, I don't know what the key to the joke is, but the key to being funny, I don't know what the key to being funny is. The point behind it all, I don't know what the point is that when you go out there, you have a story to tell, right? So it's either you got all these quick jokes and these quick things, and he's like, oh, there's a hole up in the walls, a glory hole, but you got to stand on a stilt, so like, ha, ha, ha. You know, like, everybody's different. You can't compare yourself to these other comics, one, in that, because every comic is different. Somebody's got politics, somebody's got insult humor, somebody's got, self-deprecating here. I got a lot of self-deprecating here. I like to make fun of myself, and I can take the jokes, because if you make fun of me, it's good. But you have to know that I'm gonna, there was one young kid was calling me, he was making an old man joke, and I wasn't friendly with him, and I was like, I could take it, and then he did it again, and I looked at him, and he was like one of these kid. He had like the man bun, but it was kind of like lazy, like kind of half out of its bun, like leaning to the side. And I looked at him and I was like, you know what you remind me of? I was like, toothpaste shit. And he was like, what? I said, when you squeeze the toothpaste, you forget to put it on, there's that little bubble that leaves over there, but you still won't touch it even though it's only toothpaste. Toothpaste shit.
Toothpaste shit.
And he was like, the dudes around him were like, they were laughing because it's funny. But I was like, and then his pants were like super tight, and I was like, I see that, like, because he was making fun of me, and I was like, I see that, like, wow, those are some really tight pants. Do you ever go to shave your legs and forget your pants are on? And it's like, that's so tight that you got like, and so it was going back and forth, but he stopped, and I was like I felt good. I didn't feel mad that he was making fun of me, because I make fun of myself for being old, like my knees and my back, Anyway, but like everybody's humor is different. Right. And so that's I got a lot out of it. And none of the therapy that I got out of it was about was it about comics or comedy? It was like, well, why did you feel like that? What made you feel like that? You made you feel like. But how'd you get there? And we traveled down this yellow brick road of like therapy for like 20 minutes, and I was like, do I have to pay you for this? And she was like, no, it's free.
Like, are you mad?
Yeah, and I was like, she's like,
Do
yeah,
I
like,
look mad? Well, why ain't you mad?
yeah,
I just told you I'm not mad.
yeah, like, hey, did you stop asking me if I'm mad?
I told you I'm not.
If you ask me again, I'm gonna get mad. I was like, all right, I'm not gonna ask you again. I just want to know if you're mad. Yeah, and so, and so it's I get to take a break. I go see them and get a couple of get a finger pointing at me, bad guy you are. But basically, what it means is I have to start from the bottom all over again. So if the bottom are the amateur shows,
What happens if the crowd, like your interaction with the crowd, doesn't that?
oh, it does, but it's a lesson learned. Okay, the lesson to learn is you have professionalism is I give you 5 minutes, you only use 5 minutes. I give you 7 minutes, you only use 7 minutes. You do it again, you don't work for them anymore. Okay, now there are other outlets to go. We're not beholden to each other. I don't have to use it. I liked it. Like, I just like this atmosphere. I like this stage. I like what they presented, and there's other places to go to that have been around forever. And when you go there, you got to start from scratch.
How many comedians are there in a night?
Could be anywhere from 8 to 10.
Okay.
One guy has 10. He's the headliner. He's the last one that comes up. One has 5. One has 7. 2 more have 5. You're an amateur. You go up there. You got 5 minutes. Get the hell off.
Those 5 minutes just seem like forever, right?
Right. And then I thought, and the 7 minutes felt like 5 minutes, and it wasn't. I didn't even see the light. The light goes on. It's a big bright light. I was so zoned out and like trying to make sure that I got my jokes and I was interacting with everybody that I didn't even see the light. So when I went in the back room, there's this guy there. He looks like he's in his 70s, almost 80s, like really bad skin, long blonde
You took
hair.
you in the back room?
And he was, so everybody goes in the back room and he starts telling me something about, and I said, look, I heard that went over. I said, I didn't even see the light. He goes, you didn't see the light? And he starts making fun of me. And he goes, how dumb is that? You say you don't see the light twice? And I was like, listen, man, I said, I get it. I was like, nothing you can say. Anything you say, I've said words to myself in the mirror. I was like, but don't talk to me like that. I was like, you don't talk to me like that.
Yeah.
It was like being dumb. I was like, don't talk to me like that. I said, maybe I can take it, and I'll be regretful, and I'll be mad about it. I go, but how do you know that the person you say it to doesn't take it to heart and walk out of here and like just have a mental breakdown and cry? It was like, I'm standing there and I'm like, you got balls to say that to somebody. So then I made a joke about it, and I went to the bartender in the back, and I was like, he was like, how'd you do, Mike? And I was like, oh, I did good. I go, but I'm going to get banned. He was like, why? I go, well, I went over and then I insulted that guy. And they're like, they're gonna ask me not to come back. But I was like, well, you shouldn't have, it could have been somewhat, I could have done my job right with the 5 minutes standing there, and he could have been insulting a 22-year-old or a 23-year-old and all of a sudden break down in tears,
It's a learning lesson. Mike.
It's a learning lesson, 100%, and I needed that, but I was just mad at myself for the last 4 days that I let that happen, that I allowed it, I was better than that, professional wise, and I messed up. And so I know that, and now I have to go. I was hoping not to go and hear it again, but I know I'm going to go there and hear it again. Whatever you need me to do, I have to start. So these amateur shows where they invite comics on like a Saturday from 6:30 to 8:30, you go in there and it's 5 minutes. They record it and you get critiqued on it, right? And so that's not an open mic, which is just comics and no guests. But it's basically it's the just one step above open mics. So I was on a pro show, which is 2 steps up away from it. So now I'm back down to just above the bottom of the barrel, which is a lesson learned. Anyway, this has been fun. Me and Mikey, Mike and Mike on a mic, or Mike and a mic, doing our thing. I really appreciate anybody who's listened. Thank you for listening. And when you hear this after we air it, you'll love it even more because we've touched everything.
Well, those of you that right now we are live, we are aired.
No, and then when it's not live.
Yeah, when it's not live, when you catch us on the replay,
Yeah, they were like, oh, wow, I wish I would have watched that live. Maybe.
Tune in next Thursday.
Tune in next Thursday's the special. It's the pre-Christmas special where me, Sean, and our lucky friend Johnny Juanito Slugger Salgado is coming back. And in our special episode, we will all be making coquito. Rum eggnog made by Latinos, now made by 2 white guys, 1 half white guy. And we will try all the coquito here, which is going to be good and probably like too good.
So we're coming out of here fucked up.
Yeah, probably.
Messed up.
We're going to have to, man, we're going to be messed up. We're going to need someone to come in and get us. But before we go, once again, you have 9 days before Christmas, just in case there's somebody out there that likes men's jewelry. Got this cracked ring over here. It's called the cracked ring. This one with the little skulls on it, and they have some other things. It's undaunted.com. They've got rings, bracelets, chains, necklaces, watches. Great stuff. You go out there, you see what you like. It's undaunted.com. And whatever you like, when you at the end, put in the promo code Mike and Sean Show 2.0. You get 20% off. So that's undaunted.com, men's jewelry. See if there's something out there for someone you like. Or if you think that I might like it and you want to get it for me, you get 20% off, right? All right. This is the Mike and Sean Show. I'm Mike. That's Mike. See you next week with Sean. Love you.